Hey guys, Cameron for UnREAL Season 2, Episode 2, Insurgent, and holy shit, one episode. This episode, look, last week's episode was a great introduction to everything that was going on, but this episode, I think, was maybe the most intense episode we have ever had of this show, and for me personally, probably my favorite episode so far, because this episode was intense, it was game-changing, it was funny, it got us introduced to all the characters really well, and honestly, it's really making me forget about last season. Last season was great, but this season is already topping last season, and if we keep getting episodes like this season is gonna be so much better than last season was, and you can tell they're going in a very different direction, and I really do love that. Just like just like Everlasting is. Let's just get in this episode because there's a lot to talk about, and right away things are really intense because as we know last week, we had that whole fiasco with Chet taking Darius, and then Quinn, Chet deciding that Chet's going to run things, but only on Quinn's terms. So Quinn congratulates the crew on the new changes made to the premiere episode, and Graham tells Quinn that and right away we see Graham, who already is kind of having more of a voice this season, which kind of seems like the theme of this season is that some characters that didn't have as much of a voice last season are having more of a voice now, and Graham basically tells Quinn that he wasn't ready for bikinis, he was ready for gowns, and he needs to prepare, and she says if he wants to complain to someone, he should see Chet, since it was all the work of his caveman brain fart about how to fix something that wasn't even remotely close to being broken, and Graham says it's fine if he's got some changes, that's great because he has his own, and tells Quinn that he can sing, and she says that she can shoot ping pongs out of her vagina, but no one wants to see that either. I'm kind of interested in seeing that, if Graham can really sing, I kind of want to see him do that, and tells him to stop talking, leaves to find Rachel, and I think this scene pretty much confirms that really Quinn isn't interested in other people's options. It's her options, it's what she wants, and, she's gonna make sure things happen on her terms, and even when the host of the show wants to have some sort of a voice and she's denying him, you can just tell. So Rachel's then on the couch, she's trying to decompress. Quinn says to her on the walkie, and she's trying to get to her on the walkie, asks her what part of 5 hours a hard night did she not understand, asks how it takes her to fix her tampon or whatever she's doing, but Rachel isn't answering him. Once again, Quinn tries to contact her. She then sees a gift basket from her mom, including her medication, that she quickly throws away. So we really see that Rachel clearly is not the same Rachel from last season. We're very much seeing that as the season goes on. This is a much different, much more cutthroat Rachel, which I think really all the characters are even more cutthroat. Even the girls this season are more cutthroat, which we'll get into. But basically, Quinn says that she hopes she feels refreshed. Rachel says she wants her to do, since she doesn't have any girls, and asks if she should just take them from Jay and Madison. Quinn says to grab the crazies, do her thing, and basically get back to doing what she did last season, and basically not really having any control at all, which is exactly what Rachel runs. Rachel wants to be able to be the showrunner, and she doesn't at all feel like the showrunner. Quinn's making all decisions, Quinn's telling her what to do. She doesn't at all feel like she has a voice. And basically, they promise, she tells her that they promise the network suicide rings and they need to deliver, just help her do this, and she'll give her back the show. So she goes to Beth Ann and says she's so bummed out, and she asks why, and Rachel says it's what she didn't do, and Rachel asks what she's wearing. Beth Ann says that they told them to wear bikinis, and Rachel says she knows this, but no, this one is where but not this one, where's the one from Instagram, because that's the one they wanted to wear, and she says she looks amazing in it, and that's what made them come looking for her. It's not just because of the fact that she was Southern, it's the fact she was wearing that bikini and expressed herself, and I like the way you portray Beth Ann here, because last week it looked like Beth Ann was going to be a bitch, and it's kind of like Grace, where she's not really a bitch unless they turn into a bitch. And Beth Ann said it's a hometown thing, and there are a lot of other different kinds of people there, and Rachel asks if she's embarrassed of who she is, and Beth Ann says she's not, and this is straight up torture. Rachel is getting right in her face, and Rachel says she's not a proud Southerner, all that stuff she told her in her tape is a lie, and basically is taunting her into being forced to wear that bikini, and Beth Ann assures her she's not. Rachel says she has balls only when she's on the other side of the computer screen, and the other bikini doesn't say that. She says she'll wear that, but then she says that she'll wear it, but then Ruby comes out, and this is really where we get the big conflict here, because Beth Ann says it's not what she thinks, and a lot of people have a real misunderstanding of what the flag is really about, and Ruby says that she must just be playing ignorant, and Beth Ann says it's not about slavery, and she had family who fought and died in the Civil War. It had nothing to do with slavery, and she says she might be afraid of her heritage, but she has a feeling that the suitor is going to be appreciating her honesty. And Ruby, straight out, not even, thinking about hiding, she tells her right out that he's black, and Rachel hears her, says that she told her that stuff in confidence, and said straight, told Ruby that she should not tell anyone this, but Ruby doesn't really give a shit, and and Ruby asks what she's doing. She's gonna put that garbage on national TV. Rachel says it's to push her image for her to root against, and she needs to do it when the cameras are on. So I thought that was a very good way to start things out. I really did enjoy it. Really intense stuff here. Because again, Ruby, throughout this entire episode, Ruby continues to be one of the most interesting characters on the show because she wants to push the envelope. She doesn't want to do what anyone's telling her to do, and basically is doing whatever the hell she wants. Remember, she never even wanted to be on the show, so she's doing whatever she wants and what she feels is best, which I definitely thought was really well done. I definitely like the way that that was handled. So Jaden comes out and asks what the problem is, and you can already tell again, Jace has a lot more to do this season, and I really do like that. Rachel says if he doesn't want her to steal one of his girls, he needs to get his head out of Tiffany's vagina and explain to Ruby how things work. Jace says she can stop trying to be like Quinn because she's back now, and again, he's really giving her that reality check of her basically just wanting to do what Quinn does, but she's not Quinn. She's her own person, and she needs to realize that Quinn is Quinn. Rachel is Rachel, and that's just how it is, and Rachel says it's just temporary, but Jay feels otherwise. And she tells Beth Ann that she really feels that bikini is the way to go, and to let Ruby silence her freedom of speech is important, and really, she shouldn't let her do that. And Jay goes to Ruby, asks if she's okay. She says she's fine, but she's starting to feel that she's only there to fight Beth Ann, and that's the only reason they want her. And Jay says that she's so important, and Ruby asks if it's because Darius asked for her and because Rachel says she's guaranteed the final 2, and she has 9 weeks to promote their platform. And Jay pretty much ends all that bullshit and says, it's not true at all, and that he says straight out that she can't trust Rachel. And basically, she says she's there to be an angry black bitch, and she'll be gone within 2 or 3 episodes. And Ruby asks what she just did, and Jay says he's pissed too, not because he wants her to watch her rail against a man for 5 weeks, but there was a whole other deal this year. If a girl like her ever had a shot, this is it, and says if she really wants to make a difference, she needs to win this and make it revolutionary. And she asks how, and he says that he will make it his personal mission to get her there. Remember, there's never been a black suitor on any show before. UnREAL is the first show to actually try out this idea, and it's not even a real reality show, and it's really cool that we saw that. And of course, Everlasting, in the fictional show Everlasting, is the first show to do that. And basically, he says we're making his personal mission to get her there, but she has to listen to him and not Rachel. So right away you can tell that he is not going to let Rachel tell him what to do, and no one really is letting Rachel tell them what to do, which is really interesting. Rachel feels she has all this power, and she really doesn't, and you really do see that throughout this entire episode. So the first episode's about to start, again, because before it didn't go as planned, obviously, so they're starting it over. Quinn, Rachel, and Jay are in the control room. Quinn asks Rachel if the train wreck is ready. Rachel says her job. Quinn says only for tonight, and Wagerstein says that she saw that she got a care package from her mom, and asks if she liked it, and Rachel says she did, and it's in the trash, and I like what Wagerstein says to her, that she needs to be careful. Quinn taking the job back could be a real shot for her to stabilize her, and Rachel says that there's no need to worry, tells her about their matching tattoos, and Quinn tells the camera crew that she needs tight shots of Ruby, Chantel, and anyone that's not white. She wants them in their face on her counts, and Beth Ann then removes her robe and shows off her Confederate flag bikini, and they're surprised to see that Ruby is doing nothing, because obviously Jay told her, to not do anything. He told her to hold her comments back and everything, so she's not really doing anything right now. And Quinn asks Rachel what she did to her cat fight, and Rachel says it's coming. Quinn tells them to reset and go to the suitor's entrance if they even have one, and Chet says that the boys gotta undress too. Quinn cues Graham, and the first episode starts and introduces Darius, and Beth Ann then walks away, and that's it. She walks away. She doesn't want to be a part of this, and I love the way we flesh out Beth Ann's character. Beth Ann feels like a character that's been on the show for a while. Feels like we already know pretty much everything we need about her character, just like they did with Anna in the second episode. But I think they did it even better here with Beth Ann because there's more complexity in all these characters than we ever thought. And Quinn tells Madison to go after her because obviously that's Madison's girl. She needs to control her. And Darius' friends has come out as well. And obviously that was the one thing that Quinn disagreed to. She said she wanted one black suitor, and basically 4 is just beyond. Quinn takes him outside where everyone is partying and asks him if he did any paperwork when the girls confiscate any cell phones, to do any background checks because they're total liabilities. Quinn tells him to cut, and Chet disagrees. Quinn says clearly he learned nothing in 14 seasons of Quasi producing his own show because he forgot that you can't play music because there's no way to edit around it. And that's true. Think about shows like Big Brother. There's constantly music being played, background music, and they can't just have this random music because there's no way to edit around it, and that's going to be heard no matter what. So Quinn then goes to Jeremy, tells him to give her a tight edit on Darius's. He's supposed to be their prince. Chet disagrees, says he just wants to party, no more of the pansy-ass Cinderella bullshit as he sees it. And Jeremy says that his crew is going to mutiny and asks who's in charge, because obviously he can't have 2 people telling him 2 different things to do. They need to pick some sort of medium. And They both say that they are. Chet says he doesn't want to fight, so why doesn't he shoot her? Basically they come with a compromise that, they don't want to fight, so he's going to shoot his show and Quinn's going to shoot hers. Now, obviously, this would never happen, but again, it's a really cool scenario to try, and they'll turn them both to network and see which one they prefer, the entertaining one or hers, and she says that he's on. Rachel says that she just wants to say she does not feel comfortable where hers is headed, and again, no one seems to care what Rachel has to say, which is interesting. Quinn then asks what record. They agree that she has no record. Rachel tells Jeremy that she needs some one-on-ones over the gazebo, and Chet tells him to go to the hen house and let his sack shrivel up. Quinn says that the hen house made him, and says a B camera second AC can grow on him to become EP in 5 years on any show in Hollywood, and that's not going to happen. And Chet asks if he's supposed to spend the rest of his career bowing to the mercy of, Rachel, because obviously he doesn't want to have to do that, and we know that obviously Jeremy isn't going to take orders from Rachel either, and asks him if he wants to be director, they need not talk about Jeremy, and they need not. But Jeremy says that he does, and asks if he really needs one of them. He knows what to shoot. He needs to grow a pair and walk with purpose. And Jeremy says he's going with Chet, and basically that's how it's going. Jeremy's going to go with Chet. Quinn then promotes this random guy, Barry, and gives him Jeremy's job. And already you can tell that things are very disorganized, and it's all the better for it. The episode's all the better for it. That's why it's so interesting. And Rachel hesitantly goes with her, and Rachel tells her straight out that this is not going to look good. It's going to look like no one's in charge. And Quinn says that he should have never been let on set after the fiasco last season's finale. He's like a whack-a-mole, and Rachel says she should just call the network then, and Quinn says it's not the network, it's Gary, his golfing buddy, that he goes skiing together to Park City, and because of that, Gary's not going to get rid of Chet. That's why, because obviously Gary and Chet are so close, and basically that's a problem. So Rachel says she should just talk to Darius, convince him. Quinn says that this is grown-up time, way over his head. And Madison goes to them, and then tells them that Beth Ann has locked herself in her bathroom and won't let her in, and Quinn then tells Rachel to fix it, because obviously it's a problem, and then we get a really good reveal for Beth Ann that I just absolutely loved, and really made me love Beth Ann's character even more than I did. Now, one of the reasons I love this scene so much is basically because of the way they characterized Beth Ann. The way they introduced her last week, it seemed like she was going to be a villain character and that she was going to be racist and all this stuff. But we realized in this episode there's a lot more going on with her than we thought. Because basically Rachel goes to the bathroom, asks Beth Ann if she can come in, she denies it, but then realizes that the door's unlocked. She didn't even lock it. And Rachel asks her what the problem is. She knew the guy was black, and Beth Ann says she didn't know it was Darius. Her family worships Darius, we find out, and basically he's literally her favorite quarterback of all time. She says she has to find her bag, she needs to change, and Rachel says she can't do that. Beth Ann asks if she can just cut her out of the opening scene and make it like she was never there, and Rachel asks if she's really going to let the PC police win. Beth Ann says she was never raised to be rude, and she doesn't want to be, she doesn't want to sound rude. Obviously, it seems like more with Beth Ann is that she was always just taught that this is the way, because of her being from the South and everything, I guess her family just taught her this is the way to be brought up, and she's been brought up that way, and she never meant to be coming across as rude. And besides that, she likes Darius and wants him to like her, and this is better than she ever thought the show could be. And Rachel says she can't do that. Darius has already seen her in that bathing suit, and so have all the other girls, and this is her golden opportunity to stand out and show him who she is. And she says the worst thing that can happen is he meets her, falls in love with her, and has all of her babies, and tells her to get back out there. So basically she's doing the Rachel thing where she's trying to make her feel better about herself. But I honestly feel that this is sincere, that she does actually really do want to help Beth Ann in the situation. Obviously she wants Beth Ann and Ruby to clash, but basically one of the girls, and as Jameson, since she is a cop, can arrest Beth Ann. Brandy says she's an MMA fighter and asks if she could just beat the shit out of her, and then realizes she's a cop, so she can't do that. Now, these are two characters that we don't know much about right now, Jameson and Brandy, but it looks like next week we're going to find out more about them. We just didn't really focus on them here, but that's something UnREAL tends to do. They tend to focus on only one or two girls an episode, which is one of the reasons why UnREAL is so good, because it doesn't focus on a million characters like Guilt tried to do, and not just comparing it to Guilt, that show tried to introduce to every character, and this episode only focuses on a couple ones, and they'll focus on more as the season goes on. So, meanwhile, back on Chet's show, Romeo's making out with one of the girls, tells Jeremy how he hooked up with Rachel, but she's a freak, and couldn't give it up, she's crazy, and Jeremy says he agrees. Jeremy says she's got a doctor's note that says the same thing, and Rachel tells Madison that there's girl-on-girl action in the hot tub, which is good and dandy, but now in the particular party is supposed to be about Darius, obviously. This isn't a lesbian show, so Rachel tells the rest of Darius' squad to leave, says they need to talk to Darius, and Then we get this fantastic scene with Beth Ann where she apologized to Darius, says she always thought of meeting him but never thought that she'd be wearing that at those times. Darius seems actually okay about it. He's actually not upset, and he says that she loves where she's from. She knows the flag pushes a lot of hate against his people. She then apologizes, says it came out wrong, and says this is a party and they're supposed to be having a good time, and if what she is wearing offends him, then there's really only one thing she can do. She takes off the suit, strips naked, he gives her his shirt to wear, and Ruby looks pissed, obviously, because she was expecting him to stand up for his history and everything he believes in. It seems like he's completely going against it, and she's obviously very pissed about it. And Quinn says there's not a cat fight, but she can turn the hot mess into gold, basically. And basically, Chet comes out begging not to cover Beth Ann's boobs, which is a hilarious scene and totally something that Chet would do. And Chet says that they miss them. Quinn says that they have them on camera. He had girl and girl action in the hot tub, and Chet asks if this is how she's going to play it, and she says this is what he won. He created it. It's her kingdom. Come and get it. And yeah, I mean, he shoots his show. She shoots his. Whatever she gets is hers, and whatever he gets is his. So that's just kind of how they're working it. I thought it was really well done. Definitely really enjoyed that overall, and really made me love Beth Ann's character even more. You know, she's not a bad person. She was raised a certain way, but she does truthfully care about Darius. She wants to impress Darius, and she's going to do everything she can to make herself look good in front of Darius, and I definitely really like seeing that here. So Ruby then goes to Jay, understandably, because of, she's understandably upset, and basically says she cannot physically stop herself from saying something. Jay says to compose herself, and she says she stood there like a good quiet, good and quiet like she should be, but that sure business was just way too much, and he says he was just being a gentleman, and she says he was being a pussy, and she says elongating might make sense, but she's not going to stick around and fall in love with Acela, and he says he gets it, but not the only reason that Darius is on the show is to repair his image, and the shirt move is exactly the kind of nonsense that's going to do it. And marketing will be hashtagging it all night, and that's true. Think of shows on MTV or Freeform where constantly you have those really annoying hashtags in the middle of the screen that they want you to hashtag on Twitter. I like the way this show is kind of poking fun of that is genius. That's something that UnREAL does so well, is that they poke fun at little things, but it's one of the best parts of the show is the way they kind of poke fun at the media, because yeah, that is something that we hashtag things and they don't really make sense, and that's something that totally the network will eat up. And he says he knows how long Beth Ann is going to stick around for. She's not going to win, and even Obama had to make compromises sometimes, and she says not with the Confederate flag. Says if Darius wants credit for having a point of view that he should have of himself, so be at least she will go home with his dignity. And you can tell that Ruby pretty much, I think, is going to try to do whatever she can to get fired, or to get cut from the show, pretty much. So Rachel asks what happened to her cat fight in the parka. Madison says that she has no idea. Beth Ann was ready to go. Ruby didn't just take the baits, and Rachel says that Jay told her not to. And, she knows that this is obviously Jay that did this. Madison says this job means a lot to her, and she really just wants to be like her, having her in her ear, telling her what to say to Chantel. That was like a drug or an orgasm. We saw the power that gave Madison, and she basically wants more, and she's Quinn now, so let her be like Rachel, and she agrees to it pretty much. And you don't really know if Rachel cares. She kind of just agrees to it. So Jay goes to Ruby, tells her that she can't wear the shirt she's wearing on camera because it's a copyright issue, and Ruby says to watch her, and Chet to watch her do that because she doesn't really care. And Chet asks Jeremy what he sees. He spots Tiffany, and Chet says that she's a wifey, and Chet says that that's Quinn's girl for sure. She's exactly what she needs for Quinn to build her vagina on the show. Without a wifey, Quinn has nothing. And Chet goes to her and basically does the most tries to flirt with her in the most perverted way possible. Like, he literally shows her that he has a boner. I mean, it's really just disgusting stuff. Chet normally is disgusting, though. Like I said, Chet really hasn't changed at all. He's just a lot more confident, even more of an asshole than he was. And he asks her if it's hormones or if she eats a lot of processed cheese. She says there's nothing wrong with her, it's about him, and asks if her dad called him and asked to put her on the show. He says it's because her dad is a team owner who knows that Darius had a contract negotiation coming up, and while he can't talk to him, she can. It's so typical of him to do that, using bait to get what he wants. She came on the show to get away from football, to get her own voice heard, and he says she should do that. She says she plans to fade into the woodwork until Darius sends her home. Chet says that Quinn would never do that because she is what they call a wifey, and she says that that is what everybody thinks she is not that girl. And he says if she really wants to go home, there's just one thing she could do, and screwing one of his friends. Literally, he's telling her go have sex with one of his friends, and the way that he's just plotting against things. I mean, Chet's a genius, but he's also an asshole, and we know that. So Yael then goes to Rachel, and this is probably the first legit scene we get of Yael. So far, we've just seen scenes where they're being called Hot Rachel, but here we really get to see who Yael really is. And Yael is probably one of the most cutthroat characters we've had on the show. I mean, she very much is very cutthroat, and she knows what she wants. She gets what she wants. She definitely is one of those characters. And she goes to Rachel, talks to her about how much they look alike. Rachel says that's not exactly what they're saying. Yael says it's totally embarrassing and completely inaccurate. She's just wearing a ton of makeup, and it's not that freakish to have two smart-haired, good-looking Jews in the same place. And Rachel says she's not from the East Coast, and Yael says she gives off such a New York vibe, and she says she went to Vassar, and Rachel asks if that's something that she wants, and if there's something that she wants, because obviously there's a reason she went to talk to her. You know, she's not just talking to her to talk to her. Yael asks they can talk, and she says Darius is hot, and he hasn't even looked at her. She just needs some advice and asks what she should do, and Rachel says that she should stick with Madison because she's a genius, and, you know, obviously she wants to make Madison look good, so she wants her to stick with her. So I really like the way that scene was done. I thought that was definitely really good and definitely one of the highlights of this episode. I definitely really enjoyed seeing that. So basically, you know, I like the way that we're seeing more. Yeah, we can, like I said, we can tell she's very cutthroat. We can tell she really wants something from Darius, and she's going to make sure she does whatever she can to get it. So Chantel tells Darius to put his shirt on, otherwise she's not going to be able to look him in the eye. The rest is just too distracting. Darius puts on the shirt, and Rachel says that they're like Ken and Barbie, and Darius tries to kiss her. He asks if everything's okay. She says she never does that on the first date. Rachel says she's a black wifey, and honestly, I like the chemistry that these two have, Chantel and Darius. I honestly think that they're kind of building up Chantel to be the one that ends up with Darius. Just the way they're building her up, I think, will kind of make sense. But Rachel says that she's a black wifey. Quinn says she should put her liberal wife self on the back later. And again, Quinn gets what she wants. She wants to make sure that Tiffany is the one that ends up being the wifey. And Ruby then goes to Darius and talks to him about the shirt act. And Quinn is happy that there's finally some conflict. Rachel says they should put the entire thing in the final cut. Quinn says at least the part where she called her bitch because the rest is a little PBS. And she says she knows she thinks she's televising the revolution, but what they need right now is wet panties. And she asks where Tiffany, her wifey, is, sees her about to give Romeo a blowjob, and Rachel can tell it's Chet's idea, busts in on Tiffany, and Romeo tells her to stay there, and luckily, nothing happened there, and not to talk to anyone about it. Rachel asks him what he's doing, and he asks if she's jealous. She asks if he really thinks this is going to help Darius, and he says he's having a good time, and she says Chet is manipulating him, and he says as far as he can tell, everyone's manipulating everyone, and yeah, that really is true. I mean, we've seen that on the show, that basically, it's not necessarily true. It's kind of like Quinn and Rachel tell them what to do, and she says she's the only one doing it for the right reasons, and he can't tell Darius about hooking up with Tiffany, because if he wants that, the sportscaster deal, and all the stuff that Chet promised him, he has to make it happen. Now, even though that stuff isn't actually happening, and that Chet just offered that to him, she needs to make it seem like it is happening, and the girl is blonde, beautiful, rich, and white, and if a girl like that forgives him, so does America, and he is not to say a word to anyone about it. So she goes to Tiffany. She says she didn't know what she expected, but she's not just going to do whatever her dad wants, and he cannot offer her up as some marketing ploy, and we realize why she didn't want to offer her dad, because obviously she feels the reason she's on the show is because of her father, and Rachel says she honestly has no idea what she's talking about. She applied, she found her, and she didn't talk to her dad. And yeah, that's true. They did not talk to her dad. And Tiffany says it sounded like something he would do. She thought that she got into Wharton too, until she realizes that he made some phone calls, and she says she may have called, but she still said yes. She actually wanted to come here and hope that she'd meet someone, and Rachel said she did. Tiffany says that they ruined that on night one, and Rachel says that Darius is a nice person, of course, and Tiffany says that he's also a football player, and that is a huge conflict, because obviously she doesn't want to be involved, she doesn't want to be a football wife, and once again, it's a very interesting direction, just like, you have Beth Ann, who is, who was brought up to be a certain way, but obviously is a fan of Darius, and then you have Tiffany, who is involved in football, but doesn't want to really be part of football. Just really interesting dynamics, and really different than what the show gave us last year, and I really love that the show is trying to go in some different, more cutthroat directions, and I really love that. I forgot to say that the show is a lot more confident this year, and basically, she's done that her entire life with her dad. She smiles, keeps her mouth shut, makes excellent arm candy, and she's done with it. She doesn't want to do that anymore. And Rachel says she doesn't want to do people to make assumptions about her, then she can't do it to Darius either. He could be her soulmate, and she should make herself open to the experience, and she should pray to God that Romeo keeps his mouth shut, and then that stuff makes it to air, and she has to help her. So Quinn tells Jay enough of Ruby, get Tiffany in there with Darius, and she goes up to him, and we get this really nice exchange between them. I really like the way this was done. Now, like I said, from the looks of it, it seems that Chantel and Darius could end up together, but this scene hints that maybe these two might end up together. I mean, you're not really sure, because she says she's sorry to interrupt, asks if she can steal him for a minute. The two get very close very quickly. He says they need to knock all this off and talk about the elephant in the room, but he's not talking about the hookup, luckily. He knows her dad owns the team that happens to be their biggest competition in the league, and he has been cock-blocking them for years with his deep pockets, and for Tiffany, this is a relief. Just the way that she's completely relieved after this scene. She knows that her dad is not involved he's not all involved. He's not going to try to offer him a job. He's, in fact, opposing, and tells him that his footwork is terrible. Quinn says that this is the show. Rachel says that she's been running around her all night and got these girls, and she lost a suitor. She did all the small parts, but she screwed up the biggest part, and she asks if she ran around yelling at her, but all of those years for fun. She set this up for her, but she needs to deliver, and Rachel says she needs to let her. Quinn says it takes an iron spine, a steady hand to do this job, and she just doesn't feel that she's ready for it. And I thought that was a very well done scene. I really like the way that it was done, the way that Tiffany and Darius got very close there. I really did enjoy, and I thought overall that was really good stuff. So Quinn says maybe her mother was right, that they all know that she's had episodes. She's great until she's not, which was fine before, but not if she wants to be the boss. And that's something that Rachel really didn't take into consideration. And like I said, I really don't think that Rachel is in fact ready for this job. And Rachel says she contacted her. Quinn says she needs to forget it and make herself useful. Jay sees Rachel, asks her if she's smoking now, and asks her if she's just going to become Quinn, and asks when he can expect the haircut, not that she has the cheekbones to pull it off. And Jay, again, it's basically gives her a reality check, tells her that she shouldn't be there, and Rachel asks if she should just quit when Quinn came back, and he says he doesn't know, maybe it might have been one way to say there's at least some shit she shouldn't eat, and she says she thought he'd at least be happy, she was at least, somewhat subversive, but he completely pussied down and rude from the beginning, used his own self-loathing about working there as some sort of justification for letting her go, and he's deliberately trying to sabotage her, and he says he is the wrong target, and she asks if he's jealous she got promoted instead of him. He says it's definitely not that, because he doesn't feel she actually got promoted, and I don't either. I mean, clearly again, Quinn is in control, and basically, he tells her straight out that unless she gets Quinn fired, that she's always going to be in control, and Quinn is never leaving, and she knows that. So Jeremy goes to Rachel, asks her if she's okay, tells her that they need to take something to set. Chet then goes to Quinn and says it's sad to watch her sully her temple with those chemicals and crap, and he saw what she wants in Tiffany. He got her playing tonsil hockey with the cousin, and he intends to air it, and he says that means bye-bye wifey. He says he needs to understand that nothing he does will ever cobble the air, because what America wants, what the network knows they want, is a fairy tale, and she doesn't care whatever guru transformational bullshit he's into now, but he is emotionally, physically incapable of delivering that to anyone. He needs to make America feel something, and the only thing that can do that is an honest-to-God wifey who is most importantly worthy, and he wouldn't know one of those that they slapped him in the face, and he says that she should try being one before she lectures him at being like one is, and she doesn't seem to be wanting to drag herself across that line either. Yael then falls into the water. Darius goes to save her. Quinn tells him that it's a fairy tale, and that is what she wants. That is what America wants. That is the fairy tale. And yeah, it's true. When you watch like The Bachelor, Bachelorette, that's exactly why we don't watch those shows, because they're too mushy. That's really why I don't watch it. And obviously also because it's stupid, but she goes to, also because of this show, because this show tells me that half of what's going on there is scripted, and she goes to find Rachel, who's in her trailer, trying to think about what to do, because she really doesn't know what to do here, and Chet asks Jeremy if he's alright, and says this is Wagger Steen's healing nook, and Darius asks who he's supposed to remember all these girls' names, gives him a cheat sheet, and tells him about how Beth Ann put herself out there for him, and that she might be the right choice, and clearly, I mean, Chet's basing it on looks, that's why, but Darius clearly has interest in Tiffany, and Chet tries to coax Romeo into admitting, when this is in Bates Motel, Romeo into admitting what he did with Tiffany, and we don't know if Romeo actually said anything. All we know is that Darius asked what happened. We don't know what happened after that. But Madison then asks Yael if she's okay. Yael says she very well knows how to swim. She anchored a relay, and she just slipped to get Darius to notice her. And Rachel's gonna love it, and it's a win for both of them. And she even tells us she knows what it's like to want to impress a boss in a highly competitive environment, and she can help her do that, but she needs to help her and maybe get some alone time with Darius, a one-on-one date, and that was incredible. I mean, again, like I said, Yael is probably one of the most cutthroat characters that we've met so far this season or on the show ever, and I love that. I love how highly competitive these girls really are. They're not just there to, find a suitor. They're there for much other reasons, and I really love that. And that's one of the most interesting things about the show, is that what is the real reason these girls applied, and I like that we're getting that here. So Quinn asks Chet if he's okay with her calling all the shots or would he like to do that too. Chet says she's got that, and then we go to the elimination ceremony, and Quinn tells the editors to cut all this out, make it far more interesting, and Darius picks both Beth Ann and Ruby, which obviously Ruby has a problem with, the fact that he picked her, and he also keeps Tiffany, despite the fact of what, Romeo may or may have not have said. He picks Tiffany, and he says that he picked Beth Ann because they told him to, and she says she knows he doesn't get picked last for anything. He says she's just glad he's here, and they end the show, and Graham says he's having a party at his place. Quinn says to shut it down, lock Graham in his room, and is very optimistic about the upcoming season. And then we get the big scene where everything comes out, and pretty much Rachel makes probably the worst decision she could have made is in this next scene. I love the way this was done. Basically, she sits in her truck, ignores a call from Quinn. She goes to Gary, who asks why she's there. She says it doesn't have to be a problem. It doesn't have to be a problem. She didn't mean to bother him with this, and basically she tells him straight out what's going on about how Quinn and Chet are at each other's throats, and he knows their history, and it's gotten crazy between the two. She owes them her career and loves them both dearly, but she loves the show even more, and she really wants it to continue. At this point, she's just not sure it will, and she tells him how they're making two very different versions of the show, and they're leaving it up to him to pick which one he prefers. He's understandably shocked, and she says she knows he just gave Quinn a big overall deal, and Chet's always been a big picture kind of guy, but she's always been the one delivering a story for him every year. And this year, she feels like they're actually making history, and she doesn't think they can just leave it to Quinn and Chet to decide for them, because obviously, it's just getting very messy, and he says he should give him a call, and she agrees, says she already told Quinn to call him, reach out to him, but she shut it down because of how tight Chet and Gary are, and clearly she's trying to ruin Quinn's name, you can definitely tell. He asks if Quinn is her mentor, and she says she was, assures him that she's running the show this year, but can't do it so with them fighting, and, that's true. I think that she's not wrong, that she can't run the show with them constantly each other's throats. And remember, think about how organized things were. Quinn was there occasionally, but Rachel was pretty much in charge. And now, because Chet's there, she just has less power, and he should just send them home and let them cool off, and she's good without them. He's in good hands, and she feels up to the task, and she feels that it's the best thing to do. So the way that Rachel's manipulating him is very much the way she manipulates contestants. I really love the way that was done. I thought that was very shocking overall, and I really love the way we saw that in this episode. But this probably is the worst decision that Rachel could have made, because we see Jeremy is editing their version of the show as is Quinn and her editor, and Chet's even changing the name of the show to Everblasting, and obviously Gary's not all impressed. He asks what the hell they're doing, says this train is off the rails. Quinn says it's just him, and Gary asks her why she didn't just pick up the phone, because that's what EP would do. When they have women in bikinis in the North Pole from there, and she says that was Chet's idea, and he says he can tell they have let their personal problems get in the way of the show. They need the show until they can get their eye back on the ball. He's putting someone else in charge, and someone who knows how to tell a story and give the American public exactly what they expect every season from the show they all love. But it's not Rachel. It's this new character, Coleman Westerman, who I love this guy, because why? He's normal. He's actually completely normal. He's probably one of the most stable characters we've had in this entire show, and says that they don't know who he is. They should, because they have been looking for him to do something with him for ages. He says everything he does in a blink blows him 10 million viewers in the first week alone, and Bling is going to become a network because of him. And Quinn says it's totally unnecessary. Chet asks if he has any idea how much money he's made from over the years. Gary says what he's made is a well-oiled machine that needs someone strong at the helm. Either he gets on board or he goes home, because Coleman is the one in charge now. Gary leaves, and Coleman right away says he's excited to work there. Tells him he sees what they're both going for. There's potential in both versions, but for now he wants to lean into what Chet is doing, which kind of makes sense, because what Chet is doing is different. Obviously, audience wants change, just like we want change when we watch every season of a TV show, and the best way to do that is to go with Chet's version, because it's compelling and it's different, and maybe it might be the way to go. And Quinn is outraged. Chet says that they'll talk. Everyone introduces themselves, and Rachel says that she knows who he is. She saw the display at Cambodia and sex worker series he did. It was very good. He says she just Googled that, and she says she didn't. Tells him, believe it or not, she's not just interested in a lot more things. She's interested in a lot more things besides Everlasting, which we know is true. And He says he knows who she is too. Gary said her and Quinn make a great team, and he says if she's saying Quinn doesn't know she's the one that complained to the network and brought him there, he said it's a baller move and not something he would have done. He knows exactly that she's the one that did it, but didn't exactly work out in the way she wanted to, because instead they got him. He says it's going to be fun. Rachel looks at him annoyed about what happened, and he doesn't come across as a douche here. He comes across more as a guy that's saying, look, I know what you tried to do. It didn't work out for you. Let's hope things work out for the best. Now I'm in charge, and obviously, he can tell that this is definitely going to be trouble. That's the way the episode ends. Great stuff overall. But now let's get into this whirlwind of an episode. So, holy shit, guys, there is a lot of stuff to get through. I mean, tons of stuff happened in just this one episode, and that's what I love, is that this season, like I said, is a lot more confident. There are a lot less reasons to hold back. They already are renewed for a season 3, so they're golden. They really can just do whatever they want this season, and I love that. And really, this was everything I wanted in this show. It was intense. It was crazy. It really got into some characters very, very well, and I really loved the way that was done. The clashing between Coleman and Rachel, I'm sure there's going to be clashing there, but I also read that he could be a potential love interest for Rachel. So hopefully Rachel does get past the fact that she's not in charge and that this guy's in charge and that he's just, I think, better suited for the job than she is. Why? Because Coleman seems like he's under control and he seems like he knows what he's doing, which none of these characters really, I think, do know what they're doing. All the other characters, to me, unstable is not the word, just not normal. And Coleman is somewhat normal. He is somewhat stable, and he seems like he is capable of running the entire network. I mean, he knows what he's doing, and really none of the other characters do. And I think Rachel, as much as she wants to be in control, I think she knows deep down she doesn't really know what she's doing either, which I think was very well shown in this episode, and I really did like that. Darius, I mean, now he's got like 4 girls that he could choose possibly. There's Beth Ann, there's Yael. Is he gonna get Yael to notice her? Because obviously Yael just wants to be noticed. She wants to be noticed. If that happens, will she really help Madison? Because obviously Madison wants to be, I think, the head, the head of this, she wants to be one of the head producers, basically. She wants to obviously, do more than she is, and she wants to be noticed more, so I think that's really interesting as well. Tiffany, what's going to happen with her? I think I'm interested in seeing, is he, Tiffany or Chantel, those are going to be the last 2 girls left. I can already tell it's probably going to be Tiffany, Chantel, Beth Ann. I think those are going to be the 3 left. Ruby, I feel like is going to try to do whatever she does to get herself fired, just because the way that Ruby's acting, I feel like she doesn't want to be here. She wants to get eliminated, and we know she obviously didn't want to be there in the first place, so I'm thinking she's going to try to get herself eliminated. I think that's really interesting. What Jay said to Rachel, he's not wrong about. She really is not in control, and now even more so. I mean, we see next week that Coleman is going to have more control than ever, and Coleman's not a bad guy, though. He's really not a douchebag, and that's something I do like, is that he's not a bad guy, and I can totally see why Rachel might end up falling in love with him. I could totally see that happening. I think that'd be very interesting if she did, the way that that's going. Jeremy being on Chet's side, it's interesting, but again, it's different, and I really like that. And the way the show's changing up some dynamics, I just really love it. Everything that's going on, everything this episode was so interesting. There was so much interesting stuff happening, but overall, guys, how much you guys saw this episode? I know there was a lot to talk about. Maybe there was some stuff I didn't get into. If there was something I mainly briefly talked about, it was just because I don't want this video to be like 40 minutes long. I don't want it to be as long as the episode that you just watched. But let me know what you guys saw this episode. Love to hear your thoughts on it. Absolutely loved everything that happened in this episode. I thought this was crazy stuff overall. But I will see you guys next week, which will be for the series premiere of Brain Dead, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.